Hi, thanks for tuning in to Tinge of Bravery. It's Darlene here, and you can catch me on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And so I am going to really move right along with this recording because I want to get it done before I have to drive my daughter to her agilities, because I've had a really good productive day today. In fact, that's a little bit of what I'm going to talk about first off. So please share and subscribe if you find that something that I talk to you about might help somebody else or it helps you. Appreciate it. Okay, so I wrote this on January 31st, and I have actually recorded on my podcast, but now I'm going to record it here for YouTube. I will begin with titling it When Talking to Kids Matters. So please continue to stay tuned. I noticed that I'm getting some great views on my videos. So please let me know what it is that attracts you, what you think might need to be changed, or if there's anything in particular you prefer hearing or changing. I'm definitely open to whatever it is you think that could continue to keep you interested. So I have been feeling so much better, so much that I actually went and worked at my coffee shop last week. I was there like 4 mornings in the week. And, you know, honestly, it was kind of surprising to me because I handled it. And it just kind of goes to show that, you know, therapy and taking the right medication can really help. So I'm doing that. It did kind of set me back a little ways on getting some stuff done at home, but you know what? That's just how it goes. I felt really good about at least being able to get to the shop and do a few things. You know, I still absolutely want to know where God is leading me, and I feel like where He's leading me now is taking care of my girls. I do feel like they absolutely need me, although had this conversation with my girlfriends the other day about how, you know, your kids get to a certain age or they're off to college and you think, you know, well, maybe I can kind of slack off a little bit, you know, on taking care of them or kind of guiding them, you know, like after they turn 16 or something. I absolutely cannot be the only one that thinks this, right? Come on, tell me I'm not the only one. But after talking to my girlfriends, you know, I discovered that my mentality is not unusual. They were kind of saying the same things. I know we kind of talked a little bit about like you're teaching your kids certain things when they're 5 and you think, okay, you know, some of this stuff will stick throughout the years, but there's going to be those constant reminders, not to mention the fact that the things they're learning when they're 10 don't actually pertain to when they're 17. The things you taught them back then actually need to be changed and leveled up now that they're going off to college. So a lot of things make sense and a lot of things just kind of have to really be considered. And it's something that I feel for me personally takes a lot of daily concentration and attention to. So like I bring this up because every few months I feel like I have to sit my girls down and have like a serious conversation with them. You know, it's kind of like this quarterly lecture that stems from some type of disagreement that they're having, or maybe me and them are having. So this particular time, since I'm trying very hard to change things up and how I pay attention and how I listen, this time I actually sent them a text giving them a heads up on what I would be talking about, some concerns I had, and that way I wanted them to know that I would not be doing all the talking like I've done in the past, and I want them to come up with questions and concerns that they might have as well. So like I said, it seems like a lot of these conversations come up after something happens. This time in particular, it was because my 2 older girls were arguing about switching shifts for our coffee shop. And, you know, it was really a simple fix, you know, something that could have, you know, be taken care of with one person bending, the other person just kind of being a little more forgiving. So I could really see both sides of their argument, where one girl was not planning ahead and just assuming that her sister would be able to switch shifts with her, along with the other girl who was already, been working this particular shift, for so long, she didn't want to give it up. And so there was kind of like that talk of, hey, sometimes you really got to bend, and especially that, for family. So anyway, it really got me thinking about what we do for one another, and what I have shown them. You know, Not to mention when I think about the work, I coincide it a lot with, my girls getting paid and them taking care of certain things. But it brought to the forefront a lot of things that I have been paying for that really needed to be taken in consideration to, as well, how they're spending their money, if that makes sense to you. I know it does to some of you parents out there that have these growing teenagers that are wanting and doing so much more. So I was really determined to have this conversation with my girls without making them feel guilty or ashamed. Yeah, I'm saying that because I have been the parent before who, just gets downright ugly and throws the book at my girls, when I'm having these discussions, when I'm trying to get a point across and make them realize, the advantage they're taking, or, how they're spending their money, carelessly, when all these other things should be taken care of first. So I really had to ponder how I was going to approach this because, let's face it, money is a sensitive issue, along with how we spend our time, the hours we're working. And the other thing too, I did not want this to be like all other conversations I had with my girls. I think it's really important that, as they continue to grow up, I want them to come to me when they have problems or concerns, or they're sad or they're mad over something. I want them to be able to know they can come to me without me making them feel bad, or me constantly having to give a rebuttal or even a solution to everything. I don't want to be that kind of parent that fixes it all. So I do have to say, in this particular case, when the girls were having their issue with the shift that they were working, I just told them, hey, this time I'm just going to take a step back and let you guys figure it out, because I knew it really was an easy fix. And, one person was just going to have to really bend. So, as I led up to the conversation, it really took me some serious prayer and deep thoughts to what, I had been doing before and what I wanted to do now differently. I know in the past the reasons why, I think I lectured, I talked at my girls, was because, I was really hurt. I was in pain. I lived with tons of regret once their dad died. And, who else knows this better than us parents when, when we're grown and we know that when we're in pain or we're hurt, who do we take it out on? Those that we love the most, because we feel the most secure with them and safest, so to say, thinking that, they'll always come back to us. But, that's not always the case. It took me, talking at my girls, after the girl's dad died and not getting anywhere until my, one of my daughters just, had these meltdowns, and she finally came to me and said, she couldn't talk to me because I constantly had something to say, or even worse, I never even let her get a word in. So that just really hit me hard. And it's not like I changed like that. It took some time for me to absorb these thoughts and train myself to word these things differently. And no, I mean, it's still something that, I'm constantly working on with each conversation and each issue that comes up, there has to be an approach that allows you to be heard, your kids to be heard, and for each one to have the opportunity to speak their mind. So I was determined to, have this conversation go differently. I waited until the day and the time was right, and I wanted to keep it at 15 minutes so that it gave them an opportunity at the end to express their concerns. And so, waiting a few days was absolutely the right thing to do. I was frustrated over the girls not getting along, and I was determined to let them, kind of fix that debate themselves. So, waiting until after all was said and done was absolutely the right thing to do. I wanted to go back for just a minute because as I'm reading my notes, there was something else that I wanted to add to what I felt that I've been doing wrong in talking to my girls. And that was, when I do feel hurt and angry, because, that grief is still there, I do feel like during those times when I would have those discussions with my girls, I would take out a lot of anger and frustration through those talks with them because I would do it in a passive aggressive way, bringing up habits or past pains that was brought on to me, that I felt from their dad. And I was still upset over, and I made it out to be something that I held against my girls. And that is some honest to God truth there. That is not pleasant to admit, but it is the truth because I think that's where unresolved arguments, divorce, death, and a lot of regret and not knowing who you are, those are the kind of things that will happen to you. And so it's really important, for me personally, and I hope you guys that, we kind of analyze those things and not hold them against those that we love the most just because we are hurt. I know it's easier said than done, so please realize that this one talk or two talks that I've had with the girls doesn't mean that it's just all hunky-dory. It's constant. It's constantly paying attention to how I'm handling things. The one thing I did do at the beginning of the conversation was I just came right out and said, we're going to have this talk. Nobody is going to feel guilty or ashamed or criticized. It wasn't my intent. My intent is to be a parent that is bringing things up that needed to be addressed. Not to mention, I want my daughters to learn how to talk to each other once I am gone. That's really important to me that, when they have their own set of issues, or maybe they have issues within their own families with their husbands or kids, they can go to each other and, practice what we had been doing for years upon years. So that was, really important that they knew not to be nervous about this talk, that once it was all done, we were going to go back and to the day we had, having fun, playing games, eating dinner, instead of just walking around pouting or feeling as if, things weren't said right or they weren't heard. So, I just don't want my girls thinking that I'm just talking at them. It really does mean a lot to me that my girls can come to me and I am someone that they can trust. So it's constantly one step forward, two steps back. I did, in fact, as a meaning of practicing all this stuff, I did have to have another conversation with one of my daughters, a few days later. And I will admit that that one did not go quite as smoothly because there was several things that were bugging me that were happening. And I do feel like I probably did come across as criticizing and just too overly concerned about not trusting what she was doing with herself or how she was handling a situation. Whereas instead, and I'm going to repeat myself in a minute, that, I really got to trust God. And there's times when you just got to trust your kids and you got to let them fall down and make those mistakes. instead of thinking that we're going to fix this problem now so it doesn't happen later when they're married, they get a new job, because let's face it, that stuff's always going to happen. 1 second here. Almost done, Clara. Be right there. And so it's kind of hilarious that that I think I can avoid my daughters from making all these mistakes. I think I can help my girls to a certain extent, but I do know that there does come a time when, you know, they have to unmake their messes as much as I do. Another instance is when my daughter talked to a college coach and he was asking her how he could help her. She gave some great answers, which, you know, I later on discovered that it was absolutely the right thing for her in particular to say. But since it was the college coach, I dwelled on it, I worried about it, and I talked about it more after the phone call was done, which made her feel really crappy. And that made me feel really bad, because once again, it's a matter of trusting them and their decisions and how they handle things, and not feeling like it's the end of the world. So later on that night, I did go into her room and I told her how sorry I was that I made her feel that way, that the truth is I let my anxiety get the best of me and worrying too much about what is said or not said, instead of just trusting her and trusting God. And so I've got to keep working on that, and letting my girls know that I am working on that, so they can begin to trust me and know that hopefully this is not going to be me all the time. Anyway, I love my girls. I tell them that all the time. And you know, when I do apologize to them, I don't know like if it helps, but I think it's important at least to be said. I think what is important is that I am learning how to apologize and explain why I do some of the dumb things I do. And then I work on it so that maybe eventually I won't be sticking my foot in my mouth so frequently. And also too, on a more serious note, I think to myself as I figure these things out, that maybe, just maybe, all that hurt and pain that I have been harboring is beginning to go away, and I'm learning how to handle it a lot better. So anyway, as you heard, my daughter is waiting on me, and so I better get out of here so we're not rushing around, because like my mom always said, don't be rushing around. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you stay tuned to the whole thing. Share and subscribe. Love you guys. I'm going to keep recording and developing content. And I just, God bless you. God bless you guys. And just keep working at whatever it is you're working on and talking to your kids. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye.